the Windy City Stitchers, coming at you from just outside of Chicago, Illinois. This is the first time I have seen Sarah. It's the first time I've been in someone's house and have makeup on and not in yoga pants for a year.
Yeah.
So we are so thrilled to be back, and we thought we'd do a whip parade today because it's been a whole year of stitching. We have a lot to show you, some new starts, some whips we've worked on. I brought all of mine because I've stitched on all my whips over the last year. This was this was a year of a lot of stitching. It was a lot of self-care for me to stitch. So let's dive into it. I'm going to start with my my few new starts this year. They're few, but they're big. You know me, I go big or go home. So of course I have to start with Pandemic. Most of you know that Long Dog Samplers gave a free chart named Pandemic, and I think literally hundreds of thousands of people downloaded it, like around the world. It was just such a craze, and I've loved seeing all of you stitch it on Instagram and on FlossTube. So I had to get in on the fun, of course. So I branched out and did, not really branched out, but I'm doing it on Lugana Even Weave. And I love, it's the first time I'm doing sulky threads, and I have fallen in love. Sulky comes in solids or blendables. This is a blendable called Truly Teal, and this is the big spool. It comes in usually little spools, like minis, I forget what they're called, the little ones, but you can buy the big ones, which really go a long way. So I actually got this off Amazon, but you can also get it off the Sulky website. Has every color and every blendable. So I decided to do it in Truly Teal, and here is my Pandemic so far.
Get it closer.
Get it closer, okay. I am just loving it. It is a joy to stitch on. I'm stitching it, I am stitching it in a Q-snap. I'm finding really giant, you want to look at it, you want to peruse it, really giant things for me, I need a Q-snap because it's too big for me to tame that fabric. But I love the variegation in the floss. It's such a fun stitch. It's so fun to know that so many of you around the world were all stitching it together during the pandemic, right? What could be more appropriate? So, do you mind rolling that back up for me?
Sure.
That would be awesome. So, Pandemic, good way to start. I had told myself it was going to be 2021 year of no new starts. Yeah, that went out the window by February. I had started a new full coverage by Crossstitch Collectibles. I love Hayden. I love the company Crossstitch Collectibles. It's called Stained Glass Mary, and I just love it. I just adore this pattern. Now, I started it on 25 count gridded Lugana, and I usually do full coverage and Hayes on 25 count. But this has so much pale color that I cannot see, even with readers or bifocals, I cannot see when I stitch white on white or cream on cream. So thankfully I'd only done like a column. I ditched the 25 count and I just bought 18 count Ada, gridded Ada. So this is my start. I am showing a little of the pattern, but I mean this is half a page out of 40 pages. So you're not going to be able to stitch it. So I finally can see now the light, the lighter colors, and it gives you an idea of how I use needle minders to hold my pattern on. I just tame my parked threads under this, or this is the kind of needle minder that you can wrap it around too. It kind of sticks up. So sometimes I do that. So it's going to take a long time. This is a big girl.
So for those of us who don't do full coverage, I know there's a couple different ways to attack it. But,
yes.
It's how you do it. You take one color and you do every stitch in that grid.
In that. So you were asking about full coverage. So in the 10 by 10 square, I do every stitch in that color, and then I park it in the next place that stitch shows up, which may be in the one below, it may be on the side, and then I just jump to, this isn't a good example, the next color. And I mark my parked in one color, or in this case I used red pen, and yellow is the ones that highlighter is what I stitched.
And in one session, you're probably not going to stop halfway through a grid. You're going to try to finish
You can,
it.
I mean, you can. You can. It typically takes me about an hour to do a grid, a square.
Oh, okay.
Because it's 100 stitches.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, I put it down in the middle of I finished the color. I finished the color before I set it down, but I can just pick up in the middle of the grid if I need to. Cool. So, Stained Glass Mary, love her. This actually was a start. I think I did it on New Year's Eve 2020 because I was going to do no new starts, but I consider it a 2021 start. So this is I have not done a dimensions kit in years. And this is a dimensions kit called Oriental Splendor. I'm sure you've seen it before. It is just gorgeous. It is a dimensions gold. It has hundreds of, oh no, I can't even think of the name of it. What's the stitch where you make a little ball?
Oh, a French knot.
French knot. It has hundreds. I have never done a French knot. I will be mastering it with hundreds of French knots. You stitch it first, and then on the flower is, a lot of the flowers are French knots. So that will be an adventure.
You know what that reminds me of?
What?
The most beautiful bouquet of flowers I've ever seen in my life that somebody
Oh, yes, yes, oh my goodness, yes. Oh, that's so sweet. Well, I'm glad you liked them. I didn't know they were that pretty when I sent her flowers. She's so sweet. So this is another thing. Sorry, it's rolled up and it's at the very bottom, so you're barely gonna see my progress. You know, I usually, in a kit, they usually have you start in the middle because you don't know exactly the borders. But I have figured out it is a 2-inch border on most dimension kits. So I gave myself a 2-inch border, and it would go to here with the 2-inch border, and that looks right from the chart. So I prefer to start in the top or the bottom. The reason I'm starting in the bottom, if I can just borrow this, is it's full across the bottom, where the top it's not, and that way I'll know if I'm within the borders. But I'm pretty sure that dimensions kits are a 2-inch border, which was typical back, you know, kits go back into like the 80s, and 2-inch versus 3-inch was more common. Now everyone does 3. I've gone back to doing 2 because it's easier to find fabric if it's 2 inches. The bigger your border, the bigger the fabric you have to get in, not in kits, but when you're buying your own fabric. So this is my very meager start. It does have metallic thread, which is not my favorite. However, I've been doing okay with the Dimensions metallic thread. I hate DMC metallic. Hate it with a passion. I won't stitch with it. And I typically don't even stitch many things with metallics, and I don't do beads at all. I don't do mirabilias. I discovered I hated beads. I tried it once, and it's a UFO. It's beyond a UFO. I scrapped it. So I'm not a metallic, but this is okay. I really actually like the Dimensions thread. They do their own threads, and their metallic is decent. I don't know if other people hate it or love it, but that's been my experience. I stitch it in hand like I showed you, and sometimes I put these little wonder clips on the edge. This is super easy to stitch in hand because it's very stiff Aida. Like, you know, kits come with Aida that could stand on its own. So there is that. Now I'm going to show you another kit I got from Dimensions, but I have to actually buy it again because I screwed up big time, and so I'm starting over. Thankfully I caught it very early. This kit is called Purity, Strength, and Truth. It is Buddha, and I love it. It is just stunning. I've seen it stitched on Facebook groups, you know, that people post. I've seen it stitched full, you know, completed, and it is stunning.
That's beautiful.
Stunning. And both of these, Oriental Splendor, and this is, I've been doing for Stitch Asia. If you don't know what that is, I forget whose brainchild that was.
I don't know.
But in light of all the Asian hate, we want to show Asian love and stitch Asian themed things, and especially Asian designers, although I don't think these are Asian designers. So what happened is I've never done the dimensions that had a lot of half stitches, and I wasn't paying attention. So I started it all in full stitch. I didn't even bring it, and I realized I'm going to run out of floss. So it was a super cheap kit. I'm just buying the second kit to get the threads again. Although really quick, I want to show you my trick with threads. I did not know this. We were talking about one of the things we've hated in the past is working with floss, especially I hate kit floss. I learned that you can braid your floss, and when you need it, you'll use your needle to pull out just one strand. You pull it from the top, and you know what? I'm going to do one. I'm going to do one for you. So I'm pulling this from the top. Oh, I actually got one. Now watch this. This is like magic. You're going to, of course I can't do it holding one. You're going to pull it. It just kind of pulls up your braid, and then it comes, you straighten your braid out. I have my piece of floss. It was a game changer. I saw this, I think, on someone else's FlossTube. That's why I'm sharing it with you in case you didn't know. It has just been a game changer for me to organize my threads. And then what I did is I hole punched with just a regular hole punch at the top. And I can put, do I have any? I don't have any extra threads, but I put my little wispy, maybe I have this much thread left and I want to use it. I just keep it as a floss card. So this is the most manageable way I have ever found to tame threads with a dimensions, any kit, a dimensions kit for me. Oh, and there are some blends. With the blends, I do use the little, the little floss away bags. I put both numbers and then the symbol because, and again, I don't have any in here, but I don't know how I would do blends on this. And thankfully, there's not a lot of blends.
And you said the reason that works for you, even though you have to use two thicknesses of thread, is the way you thread your needle. Right? I
do the loop start, so I can pull just one thread, put it in half, and then do the loop start, which makes it two threads. Because yes, everything's two threads. It's just some of them are half stitches. Right. It teaches me to pay attention to a pattern. Oh. I very rarely do kits, and I thought I just knew what I was doing, and I forget that. I guess it makes shading. Like I said, I've never done half stitches on a dimensions. I guess it's really popular, and it makes kind of a shaded area.
The Buddha will teach you patience.
The Buddha will teach me patience. It is, yes, I like that. It was a meant to be situation. So I'm not mad about it at all. I had just started it and done the corner and all, So I have great news about my Death by Crossstitch. Last time we filmed, or a long time ago, I had said that I had miscounted my fabric and mismeasured it, and I wasn't going to be able to fit it. Oh, I'm sorry. It's falling off. You'll have to edit that out. So if you don't know what Death by Crossstitch is, which everyone in the world knows, but it is a long dog sampler. It is amazing. It is humongous. This was my very first kind of big start in January 1st, 2019. I started kind of getting back into cross-stitch fall of 2018, but this was like my first buying a pattern, kitting it up. Didn't know a ton about, I mean, I knew I thought I had used the proper calculations, but then I got really scared it wasn't going to fit. And I did a 3-inch border. Maybe I did I think I did a 3-inch here, and that ended up 2-inch here. So I got scared I wouldn't be able to, it wouldn't fit down to the bottom. And so I went down the bottom, and it does fit. If you see, it does fit. I'm so excited. So this is where, I've got to stand back for this one. This is where I'm at with Death by Crossstitch. I absolutely love this pattern. I love the stitch. It's done in all DMC black on, I'm crazy, I did it on 14 count white Aida, which is why it's so humongous. And usually I frame my work, but I may be hiring Sarah here to do a soft finish for me with, I don't even know how to explain it, but fabric on the edge, loops on top, and then hanging it from like a wrought iron. wrought iron.
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
even know
wrought
what you're
iron.
saying. Yes. So that is Death by Crossstitch. I'm loving it. I'd like to say it would be done in 2021. I hate saying those things because then I'm really hard on myself if I don't get it. But who knows? Maybe it will. Wouldn't that be nice?
Do you know roughly what the stitch count is on that one?
Yes, it's right here. It is huge. I think it is one of the biggest Death by Crossstitch. 363 by 447.
Yeah, I know, that's a couple year project.
So, yes, it is.
What, how does that
Oh,
compare
yeah,
to
let's look at
Pandemic?
Pandemic. I was just thinking that. Pandemic's 365 by 429, so they're very similar. This will be smaller because I'm doing it on 32 count, which would be the equivalent of 16 count Ada. So, but not that much smaller, right? Like, it's a little smaller, but it's not going to be that much smaller. Rainy Waterloo Place, I did very little on it. I did get a page finish. As you guys remember, this was my first full coverage ever. Again, it's Crossstitch Collectibles. I was inspired by FlossTuber Stitching Jewels. If you're not watching her, please go watch her. She is amazing. And because it was my first and I was new, I chose 14 count Ada. I would not do that again probably on a full coverage. But this is not a huge one, and this only has about 30 colors. If you're thinking of starting a full coverage, this is a really great one. It's not, Hades are often 90 to max color Hade can be 200 colors. So, but a typical Hade is like 90 colors, and like the Stained Glass Mary was 90 colors, 89. And this only has 30, so this is a good starter one. I'm gonna step back. It never looks good very close, but I still have a long way to go. I don't even know if I'm halfway there yet.
It really shimmers. Even though you're not using,
I'm not,
the color combinations make it.
Shimmers. Oh, that's good. Good to know. This is the lighter part, and then all the rest, all the bottom is pretty dark. So, I'm getting there. I mean, in some ways, it's a quicker stitch. I find that 14 count Ada is definitely a quicker stitch for me than doing it 1/1 on 25 count where you're like looking, you're hunched over looking at, it's just harder to see. This is very easy and very quick, but I don't think as I get into more and more full coverage and they're bigger and bigger, I would not do 14 count again. I think the lowest I would ever do on Ada is 18 count, gridded Ada, or most of them I do at 25 count. Do you mind folding this better for me and then sticking the needle back in? You're so kind. Oh, this was a new start. I should have put this in my new starts. I have always wanted, you know me, I'm a Long Dog Sampler girl, so I'm being very consistent here. Long Dog Sampler's Templar Prophecy. I'm sure you've seen this as well. Most people have seen it. There's, tons of people are stitching it on FlossTube, on Instagram, on Facebook groups. So I chose to do it all again in black, DMC 310. I'm pretty much a DMC girl and a sulky girl. I don't really do fancy floss. I've done it a little bit. You'll see when I do my next FlossTube, I'll do a 2020 finishes parade. I did a few little ones. If I do floss, fancy floss, I do it in very small projects. So this is just folded. This is 18 count white Ada. The fabric's huge. I'm not going to show you all the fabric, but here is where I am at with that. I love it. It's, it's an easy, I find it an easy stitch. It's a monochrome. It's on Ada. It's a really fun stitch when I just want mindless stitching, where there's some counting, but it's counting on Ada too, so you're not doing 2/2, you're not going over 2, and great to put a movie on and just stitch away. I find this goes pretty fast.
And then I think you said you do stitch across? Or do you do some motif? I do, if it's a motif, I stitch the motif. Yeah. But there's a lot of areas, like this little pattern, the edging, where I just kind of went across and then maybe skipped that line and came back up. But yeah, I have enjoyed more and more. I used to love just going across on Long Dogs. More and more, like Pandemic has tons of motifs. I have really enjoyed starting to stitch just little motifs in Long Dogs as well.
So, you know, I go either way, but I'm going to pass this to you to fold. But I love it. That's a really fun one. It has dragons in it, and it has a knight and on a horse and a moon and all my favorite things. I love fantasy, sci-fi books, anything with dragons and Knight Templar, and I love King Arthur. I've read every book on Arthurian legend, and so that's right up. When my husband saw it, he's like, "Oh yeah, that's totally you, totally you." So, coming to my favorite whip right now, my absolute favorite. It is again by full coverage by Crossstitch Collectibles, and it is called Palace Interior. I keep calling it Interior Palace. In fact, on Facebook, I posted my picture of my progress, and I said it was Interior Palace, and all these people responded saying, I'm on the website, and I can't find one named Interior Palace. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. It is Palace Interior. And I think in all of my trackers, I have it as Interior Palace. Whatever. It truly, if you're looking for it, it's Palace Interior. I love, you know, it kind of looks like a castle in the, no, it's not showing up very well on camera. There's kind of fog and a misty castle, and then this is the palace's interior. It's got a lot of green, dark green. Green is my favorite color. Everything about this I love, and it has been a joy to stitch. It is on 25 count gridded Lugana, and again, because it's dark colors, I think it's easy for me to see the stitches. Again, a little bit of my pattern, but it's like a quarter of a page out of 40. So here you go. It is just my current favorite whip. As you see, to tame fabric. This isn't huge either. It's the stitch count 350 by 290, but on 25 count, it's not humongous. But what I do is I roll, and then I use Wonder Clips, and then I can either roll it this way, or when I'm stitching, just kind of hold it on the side. So I am using a hoop. For full coverage, I always use a hoop or a Q-snap. I like to have needle minder with my pattern, and I kind of need that tension. I have never tried to stitch parking method, full coverage in hand. I'm sure there's people who do it. I'm not that talented, so that's the way.
It's kind of hard to imagine.
I can't imagine that. I don't know my brain. I don't know how I would. My brain doesn't work that way. So my last full coverage piece that I absolutely love. You've seen it before of mine, and then Sarah, the Stitching Mommy, is doing it. She's who inspired me. If you're not watching Sarah Stitching Mommy, please go watch her. She's great. It's called Quick Stitch QS Iris by Haid. It's my first Haid, and I thought I'd do a quick stitch because they're small and manageable. Well, small for Haid. It's 150 by 177. That's very small for Haid, but it has been an absolute delight. She has not seen this in a while. So, and this is the whole, the entire picture fits in this Q-snap. Like, I don't have to move the Q-snap. I guess that is small, isn't it? It is very small for Haid, although still a heck of a lot of stitching. Yeah. Like, I do recommend it. If you're wanting to try full coverage and you've never done it or you're intimidated by it, a quick stitch, Haid's Quick Stitch, is a really good way to go. It's very manageable. This is still 90 colors, but, you know, it fits on a Q-snap. Well, if you're doing 25 count, it's a good way to practice 25 count. This was my first 25 count. Learning to park. I love this. It's so beautiful. So, Quick Stitch Iris. Yeah, I forget where I was pre-pandemic, but I mean, I've done a lot. I was probably only a quarter of the way through the pattern. Now I'm over halfway. So, yeah, that is a pretty one. I love that one. So, we are going to take a quick break and come right back. All right, guys, we are back. Part 2 of my whips, and then I'll finally be done and turn it over to Sarah. So I do not have a picture of this one. This was the 2020 Halloween Sal by Stitchonomy. All they gave were the border, and then each and every day, there were 30 motifs, a pattern came out. So I have nothing I can show you because I can't show you the pattern, but I can show you the whip.
It's a cute concept.
Yeah, it's very fun. I have not finished it, as you can see, but and I don't typically do stitch alongs, but because 2020 was such a dumpster fire, you know, and I love Halloween. So, like I said, there's 30, or 31. Is there 31 days? 31 days in October. And so each day a motif came out. I fell behind. I still plan to finish it. I figured I'll do it for Halloween stitching this month. So this year, in October, I'll finish it, and then I have some other Halloween stitching I plan to do. But the fabric was hand dyed by my dear friend Leah. It is 16 count Aida, and I love it. It turned out perfect. It was like it's kind of like it's not showing up well, but it's a deep gray with a little bit of modeling. I just thought it was very kind of Halloween-y, spooky. So yeah, it's and I love when they dye, you know, it becomes softer. I find that it's 16 count, but the dyeing process, it feels more like 18 when I stitch, which is fine. I don't know if you all find that, but I do find that when I buy hand-dyed fabric, or a friend dyes fabric, it shrinks it a little, which is fine. It makes it like 18 count to me.
What's your favorite?
So my favorite motif is probably the planet? Is it? No, it's a crystal ball.
Oh, yeah.
And I did different colors on the crystal ball because I just like those colors. But it's hard to say. And there's some really good ones coming up. The kitty and the moon is good too. I'm a real cat person. Yeah, the eyeball.
What's this?
Broomstick and bats. Broom for a witch.
Oh,
so anyways, it was just a fun little stitch that the same gal Leah who made the fabric, hand dyed the fabric for me, did it as well. She probably finished it like most people. It's not even that hard of a Sal, and I just, you know, when you get behind on days and then the month was over and I only had however many I did. Okay, so we're gonna get into most of these are long dogs and we'll be done. So this was a restart, Les Jardins des Plaisirs. Did I say that well? She speaks French. I do not. So again, this is harder to see with the glare of the plastic, but I'm not taking it out. So you've seen a lot of people stitching this. It is awesome. I was doing it on 28 count Joblin, and I was stitching in hand. And I thought I could do a giant piece in hand because 28 count made it huge. And what happened was I was more than halfway through. First of all, I miscounted in a very crucial part in the center, which it wouldn't become a center. And then my tension was horrible on the dragonflies because I wasn't using a hoop or a Q-snap. So I've fallen in love with 36 count Lugana and Joblin. So I thought I'm just gonna start it over. And actually what I did was I cut it. I had the whole, I should bring it next time as a finish. I basically had the whole top. So I just cut it, and my son loves it. And he's like, Mom, just frame the half of it. Like, I'll take the half. And so I'll have like 1.5. But he didn't care about the mistake, right? And by not doing the bottom, the circle doesn't matter. Like, it being off doesn't matter. Anyways, whatever. I'm restarting it for me on 36 count white Joblin. I think this is Joblin, or is it Lugana? I forget. I buy both. I love even weave, and I can't see what you're seeing, but there you go. But I love this motif. I love this pattern. I love the cherries and the giant dragonflies, and I just love long dog samplers. Oh my goodness. So I loved it so much I had to do it justice and do it well. So I am stitching in a Q-snap. I took off and rolled up for you. Only for you guys, FlossTube, would I take stuff off my Q-snaps for you.
Take a long time to put them back in. Take it.
It will, but I only put in the ones I'm working on. So typically I'll leave things rolled up, and then I usually have maybe 1 or 2 full coverage going and 1 or 2 maybe long dogs. And then I pull them out and I stitch for a while, maybe a couple weeks. Then I get bored. I usually always have my full coverage going, but then I'll get bored and I'll just iron it and roll it and pull something else into the FlossTube, or FlossTube. Pull some into the Q-snap. Man, I am tired, y'all. And I have tea, not coffee. This is herbal tea. I need my caffeine.
And we're having technical difficulties.
We're having all sorts of technical difficulties. This is a labor of love, people, to do this FlossTube, because it's been the struggle bus, but we love it. So this is spangled, which I love. I've had some issues with the fabric. I majorly screwed up and had to frog, and when I frogged, this is very thin Aida. When I frogged, I cut some of the fabric, and I thought I had cut all the way through, and I don't know how to fix that. So this is a great tip. When you're really frustrated with something, just put it away. I put it away for months. I was so stressed. I was so upset, and it was black. All of it was the black that I misstitched, and I thought when I pull it out, it's going to have all the black nubs. It's not going to work. So then when I was calm months later, I did all the frogging, and I realized I had really thinned the fabric, but it was enough. I could keep stitching. So I just had a page finish, and that, well, not just, this is the beginning of page 3, and I can't quite see what you're seeing. I am loving it. I am just loving it. The colors are beautiful. It's home is where your journey begins. And I do like this Aida. It's very, you had asked me once about different quality Aida. Right. You know, Aida in kits is so stiff, and this you'll see is just really nice and soft. It's probably because it's dyed as well, which I think dyeing softens up fabric. But I am just loving this. So Long Dog, this was started in Stitch Mania 2019. And so I'll show you my other Stitch Mania. The way it is the last Stitch Mania. I don't know if y'all know that. The Facebook group is closing after many years. Katie and Garrett have served us well, but they feel it's time to move on. So the Facebook group will no longer exist, although it will be archived, so you can see all the former posts. And so I'm not calling it Stitch Mania. You've probably heard this a lot on FlossTube. The word mania and crazy and madness has a connotation of stigma to those with mental illness. And there's mental illness in my family. I've struggled with depression, anxiety. I just don't want to call it mania. So I don't even know what I'm calling it. But I'm basically doing it in May, but not calling it that, though I've just said the word a ton. So I don't know. You can edit that out if you want. I'm babbling at this point. Though I do think it's really neat to see the sensitivity in our community to not using words that might cause stigma or harm.
Sometimes, most of the time, people are just not aware.
Yeah,
and
I don't think they use it maliciously.
Well-intentioned and they become aware, then we
change. Once we know better, we do better, right? And especially with the pandemic, I think a lot of us, struggled. Isolation is not good for mental health. So, okay, so that was a former May, and then this was also 2019, and it is gorgeous. It's Watch It Off. Is that how you say it?
I do not speak German.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's German. My son is going to take German next year. He's in high school. He's going to be a junior next year, and he chose German. And I'm like, that, but he wants to be a scientist, and he's convinced that German is the science language. So I'm like, I don't know, but he's going to take it so he can tell me how to pronounce this properly. But it is gorgeous. It's not showing up well. There we go. The picture, and I love it. I had tried doing it actually on that fabric for Spangled because I don't like dark fabrics. But I realized the colors would have washed out on the other fabric, and it looks so good with the navy background. So I am doing 14 count Aida in navy. I found that helps a lot. I had tried to do a dimensions kit years ago with 18 count navy Aida, and I can't see. I can't do it. It's so frustrating, and I'm like, I don't want it to be frustrating. But the 14 count's been okay. So this is where I am at, and I love it. It's just absolutely. Is it your favorite?
So, yeah.
Oh yeah, I really love this one. It's a joy. Good tip if you're stitching on black or navy, put something white behind behind the fabric, and it helps you see the holes better. And light. You need lots of light. You can't do this without light. But I have really enjoyed it. I was stitching it in a hoop, and then I realized I can stitch this one in hand and it's not bad. I actually roll it to the side instead of rolling it up. But it's softened a lot. It was very stiff Aida, and when you stitch in hand and manhandle it, it softens up. So it works okay stitching in hand, but it's a really fun, it's only 5 colors, which is stunning that you can use only 5 colors and it looks so amazing. It's simple, easy, quick stitch. This, of course, I'm just doing little motifs at a time. You know, I'm not going all the way across. And so, oh yeah, it comes down pretty close to I am halfway there. So it's going to come pretty close to the bottom. Yeah, I'm like there. So yeah, I'm going to let you roll that up if you don't mind, and then put little clippies on the side. Okay, we'll finish off the long dogs. So this is the only one that I can see totally being a finish in 2021, no doubt. So close on it. It is a Blue Bouquet by Long Dog Samplers. It's just such a fun, cute stitch. I am doing it on 14 count Aida. I had thought of switching. I think last time pre-pandemic, I had said I was going to start it over on even weave, and then I'm like, no, I like it. And it's fun sometimes to have a 14 count. And the fabric has softened. I hated how stiff it was, and then I'm stitching it in hand, so it's softened, and I've come to love it. Another super easy, mindless stitch. When I'm really stressed out and I don't want to do something complicated like a full coverage, I pull this out, and it is just fun and easy. And there you go. It is in DMC 336. This is looking, or yeah, 336. This is looking black, but it's a really dark navy in real life. And yeah, I love it. It's fun. I'm not sure if it's going to be a gift or if I will keep it. I'm not sure. I might gift this one. So, lastly, you do speak that Sanssouci.
Something like that.
That's what she thinks.
All the fluent French speakers are
cringing. I know. If you speak French, you're cringing. I apologize. I speak Spanish. Not really. Took Spanish. All right, Sanssouci by Long Dog Samplers. It is just gorgeous and fun. It's such an intricate pattern. You can't really see it well there, but there are just so many fun things, motifs in this. There's a little guy fishing and fish and an elephant and birds and, you know, long dog. It's just the best. So I am loving this. I'm stitching it in DMC 32, which is very dark blueberry. It was a newer color not that long ago, and I just had a page finish, and this is also a joy to stitch. Both this and Blue Bouquet, stitch in hand, great travel stitch, easy stitch. You've just got one. I have just a little kind of makeup bag that has scissors, highlighter, and that color in there. That's all you need. Easy to go project. I'll be sad when that's done. Like that's a really fun one. I think I'm going slow because I love it so much and I don't want it to end. You know, when you're reading a book and you don't want it to end, you're going to be depressed when it ends.
This color is so nice.
Yeah, I love DMC 32 blueberry, very dark blueberry. It is the most beautiful purple, but it's kind of purpley bluey. It's gorgeous. 32 DMC number 32, very dark blueberry. It
number
actually
32.
has.
Really?
It's a newer. So the new releases, it might have been a 2019 or 2020 new. In 2019, they release a few new colors, and often they're like small numbers, like 2 or 32. Okay. So this is a By the Bay Needle Arts. It's the only one I've done from them. I love their aesthetic. And so this is I Am a Needlesmith. It is such a cute, I just love it. I just love it. Such a cute pattern. This was also started in last year's Stitch Mania. And 2019's. Yeah, 2019. See, I've lost a whole year. Whole year's gone by, and what I do for, I'll just say May, is I stitch on the former ones. I didn't do any new starts this year or last year. I'm just working on the 3 that I still have over year that have carried over the years.
Pretty.
So I am over halfway there. I just started the next, it's a 2-page pattern. So the top is 1 page and the bottom is the next. I am stitching in hand using the sewing method. So what I found is if it's small, I'm comfortable doing the stitching method. When it's huge, like Les Jardins was, it's too much. My tension gets off. But in something this small, I think it looks okay. Do you think the stitches look okay with stitching method? So I typically try to have a few smalls thrown in there because I do so many big ones. I'll let you do that. So that's really my only small this year, unless who knows if I'll start something small. And with the no new starts, what I'm gonna try and do is an earned start, meaning, as you know, Blue Bouquet, I'm so close. I'm on the final page and halfway through the final page. Once I finish that, I've earned another long dog, if that makes sense. Whereas when I finish Needleworker, I've earned another small. It doesn't have to be by the bay, but you know, something that size. So that's what I'm going to try and do to keep, I'm at 19 or 18 whips, and I don't want to go past 20. I really don't.
My subconscious would immediately rebel against that.
Well, I know I say that, and I'm probably going to start, 10 more things this year. So watch me, don't listen to what I say and not what I do, right? So I know I rebel too. I have no rotation at all. I do what calls to me because I will not stick to it. Even doing Mania this year, I'll work on those 3 projects, but I'm not working exclusively on those 3 because other things call to me. So this is Ink Circles. Okay, this you could say.
Cirque de Coeur.
Cirque de Coeur, which means Circus of Hearts. So in my trackers, I call it Circus of Hearts because I don't speak French. I feel like the picture doesn't do it justice at all. Everything in it is a heart within a heart. It is just gorgeous if you look closely at it. And what I think I'm doing it in DMC black on white, 18 count white opalescent sparkly fabric. But I think I'm going to throw in a few red hearts here and there. I'm actually doing it as an anniversary, kind of wedding anniversary sampler for my husband and I. I know it doesn't really seem like a wedding type sampler, but again, it's hearts. It's hearts everywhere. Hearts, hearts, hearts. Intertwined hearts everywhere you look. So who knows when this is going to get done. It's not my favorite to stitch. It's a lot of just little, because you're doing the outlines, it's a lot of just little one at a time. For whatever reason, this has not been my favorite to stitch. It's a very easy stitch. I would say I love the look of the opalescent. Stitching it in hand, it's rough. Opalescent is, grainy and rough. And so maybe that's why it's not my favorite. I don't know. I don't know why I don't pull this out the way I pull out, as frequently as I pull out my other monochrome long dog samplers. So, I don't know. I don't know what that's about, actually. Yeah. So, my last one, which is the most special. So, the story behind this is we had a son who died in 2002. His name was Isaac. And he was a baby. He died in the NICU, lived for 3 days. And I wanted to do some sort of memorial to him. And I found this pattern that I absolutely loved called The Morning Tree by Whispered by the Wind, which is just so gorgeous. And it's graveyard with, at night, kind of nighttime with a tree and ravens, black ravens. And it just makes me think of him. Now, I was doing it on 28 count Crystal Dwarf. Maybe it was 16 count. No, I was doing it on 28 count Crystal Dwarf Opalescent Lugana. And it was so hard. I could not see even though it was 28, I could not see, maybe it was 32, but I could not see the holes. And I kept going and going, and it was such a struggle. And then I thought, well, losing him was a struggle. So this is, this is apropos. And then finally I'm like, no, I hate stitching on this. Why am I doing this to myself? So I found that you can get Crystal Dwarf Opalescent in Ada. And I was like, okay. And I want to put his name and the date of his birth and the date of his death. And the Lugana I had fit the pattern, and that was it. Like, there was no extra, and I would have had to buy such a giant piece if I wanted extra. I didn't want to spend that much. So when I looked into Ada, I was like, oh, you know, it's cheaper. You can buy a bigger piece. I'm going to be able to fit whatever I want, like his name and birth and death dates. So, and it's not, this is called for Mirage, but I both times I did Crystal Dwarf Ada, which dwarf is a blue color, and I am loving it. So I don't know if the sparkly will show up. It probably won't. In fact, with the light behind us, it's, you know, it's showing through, but it's a very meaningful piece. Sorry, am I stepping on your foot? I don't stitch on it often. I have to be in the right mood. I have to, it's an emotional stitch, but I think a very cathartic and beautiful stitch. And so I look forward to finishing. I'm going to have to chart his name and the dates of his birth and death. I don't chart, maybe I'll be enlisting your help. I've never charted before. My son's really funny. He has graph paper and he's like, Mom, you should become a designer. You should chart your own stuff. And I'm like, no, I don't chart stuff. He gave me all his leftover graph paper from, he's taken architectural design and stuff. And he gave me all his leftover supplies, so I have graph paper and I'm going to have to chart some words. Words don't seem as hard to chart. No. So I'm sure although you know what I could do is all the long dogs come with alphabets. Every long dog, because they always sneak in the year and your initials. So I could just steal a really pretty long dog font.
The thing to know about alphabets is, you know, you can go, there's like, you know, different sizes.
Yes.
And the tiniest one, you know, you'll have to figure out how big you'd like it to be on here.
Right.
And then just pick an alphabet that
suits it. Yep. And then how I want to place it. So
that's really special. It's
beautiful. That's a very special. And we actually have some other things, crafty things that people have done with his name and his actual footprints. And it's also in blue. It's just kind of neat how it, you know, he was born and died in December, right around Christmas, and blue, tanzanite is, the birthstone is blue. So blue has just been kind of a theme. He was a boy. It's his color. And so I think that's why I wanted it and not Mirage. Although I just like, Mirage is kind of purpley, although I like purple. Blue is one of my favorites. So I'm going to do other things on that Crystal Dwarf Ada. That's and it's beautiful in Lugana. If you're a Lugana stitcher, it's gorgeous. It just, you know, I've gotten to the point, this is a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. And if I'm miserable and frustrated, why am I doing that to myself, right? Like, you know, stitch, that's my thing. Stitch on what you love. If you're an Ada stitcher, hey, that's awesome. Stitch what you love and on the fabric that you love. So that is me. That is all of my current whips and that I'm working on, and I cannot wait to turn it over to Sarah and see what she's been doing. You're going to share just since or what you stitched on in 2020.
It's pretty much the same, you know,
all the same stuff.
Yeah.
So
but lots of new starts.
All right, I'm going to pause it here so we can gather her stuff, and we'll be right back.